Shutterstock Music.
Welcome to another episode of Black College Experience. I am one half of your Black College Experience team here in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And I have on with me the founder of Black College Experience, Keisha Kelly in Atlanta. What's going on, Kels?
Okay, so I think Coach came on when you went off.
Coach Ruffin is still there.
Okay, so yeah, I'm fresh off the road, fresh off 2 victories for the weekend. I'm super excited about all that went on in Black college sports. We had some upsets, we had some defeats, we had some laughs, we had some near-death heart attacks.
Oh yeah.
But we want to hop right into it because we know Coach Ruffin, the guest tonight, Edwaters College head coach. We know he's on, and we don't want to delay him from prepping for his upcoming game.
Oh yeah, Coach Ruffin and Edwaters, we're on our Black College Experience picks this week, and all of us picked Cumberland except for one person. I picked Edwaters. I picked Edwaters to win, and Edwaters defeated Cumberland University 24-17, scoring 14 points in the fourth quarter to seal the victory. Coach, go ahead, before we talk about your history and everything, go ahead and talk to us about the start to your season and the 2-game win streak that you all have been able to put together.
Well, we this staff just got here in January, and it's one of those situations where, we inherited a program that was 0-10 last year, hadn't won, 9 previous games on the road. So it was some things that we wanted to accomplish, as a staff. But in doing so, we've kind of torn everything down to kind of build it back up. So, we only kept about 30 guys off the old program, and we brought in excess of 108 guys. So, we're sitting at 138 guys. A lot of guys is playing a freshman, and we're just trying to find our way week in and week out and get better.
Yes, indeed. So in this game, talk to us about how you motivated your team to come back in this game to defeat Cumberland.
Well, it wasn't so much as us having to come back. We started out, 3-0, and then it was 10-0, and 10-3 at the half, and then they tied it up in the third, and we kind of went from there. And we gave up a cheap one at the end, but we were expecting rain. So one of the things that we decided, we thought we could run the ball on them. So we wanted to put the onus on trying to be as physical as we possibly could be, and it worked out to the tune of 204 yards on the ground rushing. And these kids, they stepped up. They were challenged and they stepped up, and we were proud of them. Same team they played last year, they played them at our place to open up the season and threw 3 pick sixes. So it's a difference in what a year makes, in terms of the work that's been put in by the staff.
Exactly. Well, I'm looking at it. I'm looking at your stats. Your quarterback, Derek Jones, threw for 101 yards, 1 touchdown. He did have 1 interception. And on the ground, like you said, you ran for 206 yards and 2 touchdowns, led by Corey Hammett, 108 yards. And Jaquez Pelham ran for 51 yards and a touchdown. Jones also ran for 19 yards and a touchdown. So I'm looking at it right now. And Hammett also led your team in receiving. So he is a dual weapon for you, right?
Oh, yes. Very extremely talented young man out of Miami Northwestern, and won a state championship last year. So, the biggest thing in what we did in trying to rebuild this program is we made it a point to go out and find kids that came from winning programs. Just something about kids that won and been on some of the biggest stages in the state of Florida. That they have a penchant for, they want to win and they know how to win. And those kids, like I said, we lost that first game 15-13. Game we should have won. We were 40 seconds, from the game being over. We were down, going for a 2-point conversion. Had 2 people over on the right side. We threw to the wrong side. But just to show you, everybody that you named are freshmen. So
true freshmen.
The youth of this program, but all of them are true freshmen.
Wow. And so that's big.
To include Kamari Noble, who's the wide receiver that caught the only touchdown of the day. Pelham's a freshman. Derek Jones a freshman. Noble's a freshman. So the running back.
So basically, your team is being built from the ground up for the future.
Exactly.
Yes, indeed. So we talked a little bit last week. Talk to us about your recruiting strategy on how you bring in athletes and as far as with the financial aid and things of that nature. Talk to us about the strategy you utilize for building your program.
Well, one of the things that we've kind of saw, that there was a need for a lot of bodies. So, we did venture out of state. We have a quarterback from Alabama. We got offensive linemen from the state of Alabama. We got some kids from Georgia, from the Atlanta area. We got a quarterback from North Augusta, South Carolina, who's redshirting this year because of an arm injury. And so, we've gotten kids from all our bordering states. But most of the kids, the bulk of them came from the state of Florida. I think one of the things that we found out in terms of, I heard you guys talking earlier on the show in terms of how aid is portrayed at these schools. Now, one thing I got to remember, I was saying that Prairie View is spending the most money. Now, Prairie View ain't the only one spending money now. You got to understand now. In the Meac, the majority of the teams in the Meac got the 63 scholarships. The only one that don't have the 63 is Savannah State, and they're going back to Division II next year. In the SWAC, everybody has the 63 except for Mississippi Valley and probably Arkansas Pine Bluff. They're getting there right now, Arkansas Pine Bluff. So those are some things that, I'm saying, in terms of the SWAC. So pretty much, I have experience. I've coached in all four conferences. But, this thing comes down to recruiting because, it's some schools spending some money. I think that might be the most, the myth is probably, that everybody says, well, we're not spending money. No, they're spending money because if you're spending money, you're buying players. What are you spending your money on in terms of your recruitment dollars? Now here, of course, in the IA, the limit is 24. And so we have to take into account as we do aid, in terms of there's two different types of grants that the state offers here, FRAG and FSAG. And Pell is now $6,095. So if a kid gets FRAG, FSAG, SEOG, and then he gets, full Pell, he's got $15,000 before we give him a dime. And it doesn't cost for $20,807 at 10 Edwaters. So, being able to have those additional Pell grants from the state, level, it helps us in terms of stretching our dollars, in terms of how many kids we're able to get on aid.
Yes, and that's big because the kids get a chance to get some of their money in their pockets and utilize it for, books, to eat, and if they need to buy clothes. Because one thing every college student and definitely athletes like to get is a refund. When I was in school, I would be on that list looking when I'm gonna get my refund. So, I know that's just one instance of your program, where you can use to recruit. Like you said, you're recruiting players from winning programs who, may have the talent to play at the Division I level, but we all know how it is when some players can't go to the camps. They get overlooked. And programs like Edwaters get these gems, these young players. Like you said, your team is led by true freshmen. And for the next 4 years, these guys are going to be the foundation of the Edwaters program. And you've eclipsed the win total already. So I know they're glad to have you. I'm glad you're there. I'm glad you're being successful. And you're an HBCU grad through and through. So we definitely are happy that you are able to be successful in building your program in your first year.
I think the biggest thing, is, when I step foot on this campus, I say, what are we good at? Who are we? When people say our name, what do they say? It's no different, in other institutions. Right now, you're talking HBCU football. You're talking about the Gremlins. You're talking about the Prairie Views. You're talking about, the Southerns. You're talking about the A&Ts, the Bethune-Cookmans, in terms of the schools that have really had some success over the last 5 or 6 years, and you got some of your historic programs like a FAM and a Jackson State that has been down, as of late, which,
right.
I really believe those programs will be coming back. I think, at where they are and what they're trying to do, I think, it was a great hire with Florida A&M hiring Willie Simmons. I think Willie's going to get that thing turned around over there. And then the biggest thing will be, what happens at Jackson State next, in terms of Do they get it turned around this year, or is there a change made in the future that galvanize the alumni base in terms of getting that program back on track? So, you never can tell. You know what I'm saying? I just think that, some of the schools have built some facilities, I think, that's helped them in terms of their recruitment abilities as opposed to when they match up with other schools within the conference. You know what I mean? In terms of the facilities you see at Alabama State, Alabama A&M, what you see over at Prairie View, the addition they put on over at Southern. There's some schools, and we even with Grambling and Southern putting turf in. There's some things going on in the SWAC, that I didn't see in the Meac last year, having coached at Bethune-Cookman. So I think in terms of, what I saw in terms of the stadiums and all of that, it seems like there's more pageantry and fanfare in the SWAC right now in terms of the attendance and things like that. I think, as far as a talent level, I think the conferences are probably just about even, and maybe a little bit better, at the top, with the success that A&T's had, over the course of last year, going undefeated, and then, of course, with them beating East Carolina, Jacksonville State, and Gardner-Webb this year, even though they got upset the other night, by Morgan State. That was a surprise. But
exactly, and we're going to talk about that a little later. Kels, you have any question for Coach Ruffin?
Okay, so Coach Ruffin, one of the things you talked about, you said you have worked in all four conferences, and I know it's a difference across all four conferences. Talk about some of those differences across the different conferences, because one of the things you just said is I see a lot of pageantry as far as attendance and different things in the SWAC. Talk about the differences across, or some of the differences you have witnessed across the conferences while coaching.
Well, I think, the comparison you have to make is, with the CIAA as opposed to the SIAC. I think across the board, the CIAA, from an administrative standpoint and the way it's being ran and just the sheer numbers they have in terms of staff, and with the way they run the basketball tournament, I mean, I think, they're head and shoulders right now above the SWAC. I mean, of the SIAC. I mean, the SIAC, is that's a conference that we want to be able to join in the near future here at Edwaters. We're going to be making an application to go Division II in February. That is on the agenda here, and then we're trying to go to the SIAC. I just think that, from a basketball standpoint, the CIAA is a better conference. Top to bottom in football right now, I would say that the CIAA may have a slight edge. So, but in terms of attendance, the SIAC has led the nation in attendance in Division II 15 years in a row. So, those are some of your differences, between those two conferences. And, of course, in the SWAC and the Meac, the SWAC has had better numbers as far as attendance than the Meac has. And I think, overall basketball tournament-wise, it's kind of hard to tell between the two. They seem to be about the same, even though it seems like the product in the MEAC and basketball may be just a little bit better than it is in the SWAC at this point in time.
Okay. Next thing, Coach, you're coming off, you have 2 wins under your belt. So it looks like you're coming in to revitalize this program. What are you looking forward to? Or what are you doing for your next opponent? How are you preparing your team for this next opponent?
Well, actually, our next opponent, Kaiser University. Of course, the Kaiser University system, they have about, 7 to 9 satellite campuses across the state of Florida. And what they did is they just started football at their main location in West Palm Beach. So it's a startup program, but they started out the season 2-0. So, they're a pretty good football program. They're pretty solid on defense, and they'll do some things to give us some problems. They're bringing pressure and things of that nature. So, I mean, I can't walk in this with some misconceived moment that this won't be a competitive football game, because we started out 0-2 and they started out 2-0. So we're going to have our hands full, and they're looking to win their first football game on campus. They hadn't won a game. And, it's a difference in programs that revive football. They dropped football. Like when I was at Payne, they dropped football in 1964, and we brought the program back in 2013 when I was the head coach there. When I started football up at Shaw, they dropped football in 79, and we brought it back in 02. They've never had football here. So this is something big for them. because they're not revitalizing. They're trying to establish some new traditions and things of that nature, and they're spending money down there. That's probably the richest county in the state of Florida, and they're putting some things in place to be successful, and that's a hotbed, in terms of being that close to Dade, that close to Broward, Palm Beach County, Polk County, things of that nature. So, we're not going to sleep on them. I mean, we're young, they're young, and we know, basically we're starting football over too. If you look at the terms of, of just how young we are across the board, and we're going to go in there with our sleeves rolled up and our hard hat on, and we know it's going to be a heck of a football game because they've been very competitive in their young season in the infancy of their program thus far.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, we have some callers on the line. And the first caller, I want to see if they want to have a question for you. Caller from, well, they hung up. My line brother's on the phone, Patrick Perry. Patrick Perry, do you have any questions for Coach Ruffin?
I'm not right now. You go ahead.
All right. Well, Coach Ruffin, talk to us about, your grand plan for Edwaters going forward, as far as how you plan to continue to shape the team, to motivate your players, to potentially improve the facilities at Edwaters, to get alumni behind Edwaters as far as giving donations to the football program, because we all know, having a strong alumni base behind your football program can only help it grow and only help you be successful.
Well, the biggest thing here is we have a new president, Dr. Zachary Faison, who came in from Tuskegee University. He had been here prior to that. He's worked at Valley, Virginia Union. He's been some places, and like I say, he's coming to us from Tuskegee. Well, of course, I've coached there, in 2005 with Rick Cummings. He knows how electric of the environment that is, and he's an alumnus of Albany State, which when he was in college, they was probably winning it every year under Ham Smith and Mike White. So I think one of the biggest things we got to look at is that, we're going to make a move. I mean, with the conference that we're in, we're NAIA, and our direction that we're heading, our leadership wants to go Division II into the SIAC. Now, our past president, Dr. Glover, got us in the situation where we're building a new stadium here. And so the new stadium is they're going to start on that in December. So we got turf, lights, the whole nine going on. So it's, sometimes you get a job at the right time, you know what I mean? And I think, us coming in here, trying to make application, getting the approval to get provisional membership in NCAA, being able to play in the SIAC, new facilities and things of that nature. We got a $4.5 million project going on a dorm here that started in January on Tiger Landing. So, I've been a part of 3 startup programs, but this is kind of like a culmination of all the jobs that I've had. It's kind of all those jobs rolled into one, and you kind of got to get somewhere where you get everything you wanted and how you want it, and at the time you need to have it. And I think, as you look at, HBCU sports or just college sports of any nature, I tell people all the time, you win from the president's office now, because those decisions are made from the president's office. It gives you a chance to be able to take your program and enhance it. And that's what we're doing here. I mean, we have great leadership here, and I'm very, very thankful of the administration that we have here now and the things that they're putting in place to be able to, take us further down the road as our president has came in. And one of the things he keeps preaching is, emerging eminence. What does that mean? We're striving to be great, and it's a day-by-day concept, but we're striving to be great, and that's the thing that we're not going to stray away from here, whether it's football, whether it's in the classroom. That's what we're preaching to our student body. It's just not a student-athlete thing. It's emerging eminence, and that's what we want to be. And I think that, having so many freshmen play, we're going to be competitive. And it just lends itself to where we can be in the future. I think the biggest thing is we got to have a great retention rate. A lot of coaches don't understand. You got to get kids to their junior year. If you can get them to their junior year, you got a chance to graduate them. And, a lot of coaches spend so much time recruiting that they stop recruiting the ones they brought in. You got to continuously recruit guys in your program and give them a reason for being there and knowing why they're there and what their contribution is going to be to the program. So I think those are some of the things that's going to help Edwaters College as we continue to strive to be great going forward.
Right. Well, I want to ask this question here because you just talked about all the years you had, because you do have over 20 years of experience in football. Talk about what you have learned from some of the head coaches, and what head coaches and other mentors would you say have shaped your coaching philosophy, and just as a football coach?
Well, I worked for Jack Bush at Lincoln University, and I think, one of the things I learned early on in my career was he put me in a position to work. Sometimes it's not so much as having the talent to do the job, it's someone putting you in a position that they're going to let you work and they're going to back away and let you do your job. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes people micromanage you and you're not fully able to do the job because they keep wanting to put their hand in it, and that was one of the things that when we brought football back to Lincoln, they dropped it in '88, and we brought it back in '99. I was on the first staff there, and I mean, he made me the recruiting coordinator. I was over that put me over financial aid and admissions, and so all the administrative workings of the staff. See, a lot of times people don't realize, a lot of people can coach football, but can you get your program administratively in a position to win football games? There's so much that happens and goes along with shaping a program off the field. And I think some guys, they discount that part of putting a program together because they can get them to the field, but they can't finish the drill, because they can't manage the program. You got to be in a position to manage on and off the field. And, I think that was one of the biggest things, I had an interview for the Shaw University job. I wasn't even trying to get the head job. I was trying to get the offensive coordinator job. And I was at a convention in San Antonio, and they called me and said, "Hey, it's your job." And I probably said it about 3 times, well, whoever gets the job, let them know I'm very interested in being the offensive coordinator. And the guy had to stop me and said, "No, you don't understand. You are the head coach." And I was 28 years old, and we went 7-3 the first year. And I had to say to myself, well, what made me have success? Well, I had to go back to when I worked for Coach Bush, 2 years prior to that. It wasn't a job that I didn't have on his staff in 2 years' time that allowed me to be able to put my personal skills in a position to be able to get things done, and you got to be, in a situation where you can't be so, you can disagree without being disagreeable, you know what I mean? And you got to be able to, sometimes you got to be a little patient, you got to hold off, because sometimes you can't say everything at that moment. There's a time and a place for everything. And those are some of the things that I've learned over the years and kind of evolved, in terms of my leadership style, in terms of when to say it and when not to say it. And I think that takes you a long way,
Yes, what was that rhyming statement you said? To finish the drill?
Finish the drill.
What was the whole statement? It was like a parable you had. Coach?
You can call my guard now. I forgot now.
So we want to thank you for coming on Black College Experience, and I know you got to get ready to go game plan, but we're gonna continue to follow and support the Edwaters football program. And what I tell anyone, all of our guests, is once you have become a guest on Black College Experience, you are now family. So we don't have to invite you on for you to come on. Of course, we're going to invite you on when we want to specifically talk about something. But if you just want to come on and talk about the Edwaters program, or if you just want to talk about anything football related, it don't even have to be about your team. It could be about your love of HBCU sports. You are welcome to call in and give your viewpoint and give your opinion, because you are HBCU born and bred. You went the lane. You've coached across the HBCU landscape, and you're now rebuilding a football program that desperately needed someone of your caliber. And I wish you much success in the future. I can't wait to see what happens when you do move to the SEAC, and then as you continue to build the program and make it successful, to see you start playing some swag schools and some Meac schools. Just overall, just building the bricks to build this program up, because you've already laid a solid foundation. You can see it. You've already won, more games than they won last year. So you have a proven method of bringing in young men who are hungry, who are winning. And I think that mode is going to continue to follow you and work for you. And I just can't wait to see the end results of Edwaters season. You are going to be on our picks list this week. We are going to pick the game Edwaters versus Kaiser. I'm going to say it's Kaiser, right?
Yeah, Kaiser University. Uh-huh.
Yeah, Kaiser University. So we are going to pick that game. I know who I'm rolling with because you got me a win this week. So I like to stick with because the first week I was terrible. Kels and everyone else kicked my butt. You know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna roll with Edwaters again this week when we get to our picks. And much success to you in the Edwaters program, Coach.
Well, thanks for having us.
Thank you so much, Coach, for coming joining us. Like you said, Derek gonna let me get a word in edgewise there, Coach. But
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Thank
Kayla.
you for joining us. Good luck on your next game, and we'll let you go ahead and get to that preparation.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Good night.
Thank you, Coach. Now, Kelly, we want to take a commercial break and then come back and talk about the rest of the weekend's action.
Yeah, we can.
All right, we're going to take a commercial break, and we'll be right back in 31 seconds, not minutes, because if we went on 31 minutes, the show will be over. 31 seconds for more Black College Experience.
I already knew that I was going to go to college, from a young age. I definitely want to major in political science. After that, I'm going to get my law degree. Then I'm going to come back to Detroit, boost the economy, become the mayor or something, try to make the situation better for other people. I feel like I owe it to the city. I'm determined. It's gonna happen. My name is Justin, and I am your dividend.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back with more Black College Experience and KOs. We have two ways we can go here. Both awesome games. We could talk about the Monumental Meac upset, or we could talk about the inaugural Gulf Coast Challenge, which you were which we supported, which we were a partner with. Ladies, go ahead and make your choice. Where you want to go?
Okay, we'll go with the place that we were. So we'll go with the inaugural Gulf Coast Challenge. Very great weekend in Mobile. Had an opportunity to witness history. Had an opportunity to just be in the mix of everything that was going on. Everything from the team luncheon to, just greeting with the coaches, talking with the coaches, being out there with the athletes, being in the midst of the band, Battle of the Bands, Creek Show. Really great weekend to be in Mobile. And, again, this weekend is over, but we are still on a high, still have not exhaled and come off that cloud to say, okay, it actually happened. It actually pulled it over. Actually to say, okay, it started as an idea and it materialized into an actual event. It's kind of hard to grasp the concept that it actually happened. So, needless to say, coming off of the weekend, the game started off pretty.
Whose idea was it?
Well, Tim Hale, which is one of my alums, he's one of my alums from Southern. He came to me about the idea. He was talking about it, and once he talked about it, initially he talked about doing he said, I think it's Alabama State and Southern, but it ended up being Alabama A&M, and all he needed was the person to talk to, and he just kind of went from there, talked to his frat brother, which of course is Travion Scott, and it just kind of went from there. So, it was just kind of like had the conversations. Yeah, we'll support you. Yeah, we'll, the marketing, whatever you do, we'll get the word out there, and it just kind of went from there. But a lot of logistics to it, to pulling that game off. A lot of stuff, a lot of things went into effect to do it. But needless to say, yesterday was a great day. I want to say 25,000 people were in attendance, which is, when you're talking about the week before Southern University's homecoming, that's a major thing. And then you had Alabama A&M that traveled really well. So it was a great weekend. But into the game, 21, you going in on the first drive. Southern, fast. They score fast on the first drive. They score first. They do miss the extra point, so that gives them 6-0. Alabama A&M comes in and they score on the next three drives. So they were up 21-6. And right. I want to say right at the half we scored to make it 8-16, or excuse me, 8-21. Right after that, there was another touchdown before the halftime and made it 15-21. Coming back in, Alabama A&M really didn't do too much in the third quarter, didn't do too much in the second half. It wasn't until fourth quarter that they did. So the deal that sealed it is that when they went for the touchdown, they got the touchdown. Akil got the touchdown. They went for the 2-point conversion. He was stopped at the 1-yard line, and then Southern recovered the onside kick, and that was the game. That's how the game ended. It was crazy. Somebody had to lose. But even with 5 turnovers, Southern still won the game.
Yes, indeed. And like I said, when Manny first posted that score, 21-6, I was in shock. I was like, how is Southern letting Alabama A&M jump on them like this? But in typical Jaguar fashion, the Jaguars started chopping wood and carrying water. And it eventually carried on to a comeback. Southern shut out Alabama A&M in the second and third quarters, scoring 9 and 14 points respectively, to have a 29-21 lead. But then Alabama A&M managed to score 6 points by Akil Glass, but the rush failed for the 2-point conversion, which would have potentially tied the game and would have been heading to overtime. That gave your Jaguars an unbelievable comeback victory in the inaugural Gulf Coast Classic. And I know you were happy, but I want to ask you, were you worried? Were you worried when they jumped up 21-6 on you like that?
One thing that people should know about me, it's two things. For one, I never really doubt my team. I know that they play well from behind. They're a team that plays under pressure. It bothers me that you have to come from behind. But the second thing is that people don't realize is that I'm born and raised in Huntsville. So I grew up, you're talking about 37 years of watching Alabama A&M. I watched them over different eras. So I know how they play as well when they play Alabama State for Magic City Classic. I've watched them. One thing that I will not take away from them, however, is that you can't mistake Maynard for Spady. If this was Spady playing, if this was Spady's team, easily it would have been 48-6 with Southern and Alabama A&M. And that's something that someone else said to me. So this easily would have been totally different. But Maynard had a totally different ball game. It was a totally different thing. Wasn't worried, but it was one of those things. It was kind of tough to watch because it's like they were just running the score. But I was like, eventually something has to happen. And I was like, they'll get tired. And in true fashion, in the second half, it just kind of died down. It died down real quick.
And let's just talk about, I have the stats up here. Stats for Southern. John Lampley completed 24 of 38 passes for 204 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 picks. John Lampley also led the team in rushing with 21 attempts for 99 yards. Devin Ben had 23 carries for 86 yards and 1 touchdown. Mims had 2 catches for 37 yards and 1 touchdown. Through the air, Kendall Callahan, that's a spark plug right there, had 7 receptions for 52 yards, and Devin Ben had 4 catches for 46 yards and a touchdown. The other touchdown was caught by Craig. He had 2 catches for 17 yards, including that touchdown. Offensively for Alabama A&M, Akil Glass was 17 for 29 for 210 yards and 2 touchdowns. No picks, good game for Glass, but he didn't get the win. Jordan Bentley, 15 carries for 96 yards. He hurt y'all in the game. He had a long run of 49 yards, had 1 touchdown. Gary Quarles ran for 34 yards. Akil Glass also scored a touchdown on the ground. Through the air for Alabama A&M, Kendrick Johnson had 2 catches for 48 yards and a touchdown. Jordan Bentley also had 43 yards through the air and 1 touchdown. Defensively, Southern was led by Lunkins with 10 tackles, 1 for loss, and Gaines, 8 tackles, a half for loss. Alabama A&M was led by Elijah Tamarki, 12 tackles, 1 forced fumble. Armani Holloway, 12 tackles, 1 tackle for loss. Also, Fletcher had 1 sack and 1 forced fumble. This was an exciting game, offensively and defensively. And when you have points and when you have defensive plays, that makes for a very, very exciting game. And I just know the fans were thrilled. But we also want to give kudos because we already know there was another battle also, Kels. The battle of the bands. Southern University's band versus Alabama A&M's band. So, who won that?
Absolutely. Well, of course they didn't judge it. I think, of course, I say I'm not a band person, but I think both bands did really well on Friday night. coming in. Both came in. Southern just seemed like they wouldn't stop coming. Really, I think this is one of the largest classes for the band this year. They say it. So it was great to see not only Southern but also Alabama A&M. Once again, I do. It was a great overall, a great overall meeting of just seeing all these people together in one place. And I get the best of both worlds. I get to see Southern, and I also get to see all my friends and family from Alabama A&M, people I don't get to see often. So it was just one of those things that I think the band did really well. Football team pulled it off. So on both sides, I think the fans were really excited, and it was just a good time.
Yes, indeed. And this was one of our Black College Experience Week for Pick'em games. And we have to say sorry to Jen. She's the only person who picked her squad, the Alabama A&M Bulldogs, to win this game. Everybody else picked the Jags. But Jen, if the game ended in the first quarter, you would have won this game. But football is 4 quarters. And the Southern University Jaguars proved that football is won in 4 quarters. So congratulations to Coach Dawson Odoms and the Jaguars. Getting ready next week for the Alcorn Braves. And Kels will be coming to Baton Rouge. And you will be staying with me. So we will be able to get to hang out and chill and, plan for this weekend. And hang out with you Jags for y'all homecoming with the Braves. Kels?
Definitely ready.
Yeah.
Definitely ready. It's going to have to be some adjustments and some changes, most definitely, from this week. Because if we play like we did yesterday, it's going to be that outcome is going to be totally different. So, yes. So hopefully they make all the adjustments that they need to make for this upcoming game. Make all the necessary changes again, because if we play like we did yesterday, it's going to be a totally different outcome.
Now, before we talk about the rest of the games, I want to talk about this monumental upset. Monumental upset. There is no way that I would have bet my whole check, my next 3 whole checks, that North Carolina A&T would blow out Morgan State. But that was not the case, as the Morgan State Bears shocked the Meac world and the HBCU world, football world, also by defeating the number 4 ranked North Carolina A&T Aggies. Where's the score? 16-13. A field goal by Alex Raya, 36-yard as time ran out, lifted Morgan State to the victory. I mean, that is just you don't have that happen to a team as talented as North Carolina A&T. I mean, talk to us about what you think about this game, Kills. What do you think about how Morgan State overcame all of their odds to pull off one of the biggest upsets? Because North Carolina A&T has been pulling upsets all game. With Coach Washington getting his money.
Well,
you know what I'm saying?
In this case, this is their first win of the season. So they were 0-4. So this is the first game that they actually won. And of course, that means that North Carolina A&T is no longer undefeated. That means they're also probably dropping the polls.
Right.
I think, I want to say on the other side, Morgan State always has, the better defense. So, and a good quarterback. So it is only a matter of time. Now, how it happened with North Carolina A&T, I have no idea, but it did happen. On the flip side, North Carolina A&T, they'll recover from this one loss, and they'll keep it moving. They'll still end up being in the championship from what I understand, from what I think.
PP, what do you think about this? I'm calling it the monumental Meac upset.
Any given Saturday.
Right. PP, give us your thoughts on this monumental Meac upset.
Yeah, I guess it goes back to, Morgan State's familiar with A&T. I guess the signs were showing, even against Jacksonville State, that if you can kind of pressure Raynard and shut down Cartwright, that's a running back name. If you can shut them down, you're going to always be in the game. So, I said Morgan State is familiar with A&T in a way. They always have at least a decent defense. So, everything just came together yesterday evening, and they were able to pull it off.
Right, to me, I think this game was won in the trenches. And speaking of Raynard Kells, he was benched in favor of Khalil Carter. Raynard, and he's a senior, potential NFL draft pick. This is his senior year, has had a stellar career. To see him struggle in his senior year, which could potentially impact his pro perspective, that's not something that I want to see. But he was 4 of 15 for 33 yards and 2 interceptions. When Khalil Carter relieved him, he went 7 of 15 for 55 yards and 1 touchdown. And Cartwright gained 59 yards on 12 attempts. He did have a touchdown, but Morgan State had a running back by committee led by Joshua Chase, DeAndre Harris, and Jordan Riggins. Chase 65 yards, Harris 85 yards, Riggins 29 yards for a total of 179 rushing yards and 1 touchdown. Through the air, Morgan State was led in passing by DeAndre Harris, 10 for 24 for 138 yards. He did throw 1 pick. But the kicker, in a pressure-packed situation, as time expired, you have to give kudos to this kicker because, Alex Raya, 36-yard field goal to win the game. It's the stuff dreams are made of. And, Morgan State shut out North Carolina A&T in the fourth quarter because Raya scored the only points, 2 field goals to tie the game and to win the game. And you can't have it any other way. You know what I'm saying? To have an upset like this in the Meac, it's just, like I said, I would have bet my next 3 checks that North Carolina A&T was not going to lose to Morgan State because I didn't put them on the picks list simply because I figured this is going to be a monumental blowout, but it ended up being a monumental Meac upset. So that's just amazing. That's how football is. But to run down the rest of the scores, we're gonna jump back over to the SWAC first. Arkansas Pine Bluff kills, and they've been catching it lately, not only on the football field but also on social media. Prairie View scored 62 points. So only allowed Arkansas Pine Bluff to score 13. So giving up 90 points and 62 points. That Arkansas Pine Bluff defense has to be reeling. Before we talk about those scores, Kills, what do you think about Arkansas Pine Bluff's struggles?
It's like growing pains. And one thing I've always told people, coaches, athletes, mainly because I deal a lot with Morehouse, one of the things that you have to stay away from when you're not, you have to stay away from social media, especially as a coach. You don't want to put yourself in any position where people are going to use that against you.
Yes.
And we all know how social media can be, how social media groups can be. And honestly, that's why I don't comment on a lot of things, because I have to cross these coaches, I have to cross all of these people again. So I don't really talk about it. But they have some growing pains. They have some growing pains that they really need to take care of. And I think with Pine Bluff, every week it's just you got, okay, so it was 6 to 90. Then you get 62 or whatever to 13. So, somewhere in there, you got to find your rhythm. You got to find what works for you and try to win a ball game. You can't throw a sob story. You got to find what works for you because, you can win a game. You won games before, so find what works for you. And we have to keep in mind now, we can't. This man is only working with minimal scholarships.
Right. So
let's be reminded, you're working with less than half of scholarships. So
but it doesn't get any easier.
Scholarships you got. You said what?
It doesn't get any easier because they travel to Miami to play FIU.
When they suffer from the APR and the infractions, then that puts you have less scholarships. So you're in a situation where you're gonna have to find out how to make it work. You have to. It doesn't get easier, but you can make it work.
Right. All right. Rest of the scores: Texas Southern was creamed by Houston 7-14. The Grambling State Tigers, the predicted SWAC champion, got on the win side of the column, blanking Alabama State. I did not see them. We picked them to win. Only one person picked Alabama State to win. I think that was my frat, Dr. Michael Prince. Yes, Dr. Prince did pick Alabama State. And also, PP, you picked Alabama State Both of y'all made big boo-boos. Grambling shut out Alabama State, but Alabama State, well, I saw what Manny posted. Alabama State was able to have an amazing offensive output. I think they outgained Grambling in the ball game, but they just could not find the end zone. Grambling just used a smothering defense, because Malik Rout ran a punt back 79 yards. Arden Clark, 11-yard run. Christmas, 66-yard interception return. Marco Rosso kicked 2 field goals, and then Devin Lindley had a fumble return. So Grambling only really had 1 offensive touchdown and 2 field goals by the offense. And the defense and special teams scored the rest of the points. But, hey, defense and special teams can win you games, and that's what Grambling, they didn't really need the other scores because Alabama State did not score anything. But, I mean, it's just as far as first downs, Alabama State had 20, Grambling had 16. Grambling grounded out on the ground for 209 yards and 142 yards on the ground, but Alabama State had 167 yards passing. Grambling only 82, so that Grambling passing attack is really, really missing Devontae Kincaid. The Hickenbottom and Arden Clark are struggling passing the ball for Grambling. But total offense, Grambling only had 209. They had 291 yards of offense. Alabama State had 309 of total offense. Alabama State ran 83 plays. Grambling 65 plays. Penalties, 8 penalties for Alabama State, 11 for Grambling. The defense and special teams basically won this game for Grambling. Running down the rest of the scores, our Delta Devils, of course, my wish was not granted because I was joking with BJ about what could happen. Could we be ranked in his top 5 if our Delta Devils PP could pull another monumental upset on Alcorn? And of course, that dream was not answered. The Braves shellacked us 56-20. No surprise there, y'all. 20 points. I think that's the most we've scored all year. We're getting better, but Alcorn is just a better team right now. In the Meac, rest of the games in the Meac. South Carolina State lost to Norfolk State 17-7. Duke blows out North Carolina Central 55-13. We already talked about Morgan State beating North Carolina A&T. In the Circus City Classic, Howard defeated Bethune-Cookman 41-35. FAMU blew out Savannah State 31-13. And that's it for our scores in the MEAC. Jumping over to the CIAA in the West End Classic, Livingstone blanks Lincoln 30-0. Shawan, that's right, kids. Shawan.
That is.
Shawan beats McKendree 55-45. Bowie State and my buddy Amir Hall 32-22 victory over St. Aug's. Fayetteville and ECSU got postponed. Virginia State blows out Johnson C. Smith. Campbell shuts out Shaw. In the Winston-Salem Classic, Virginia Union beats Winston-Salem State. And that's another game that we did pick. And we all picked Winston-Salem State, except for you, LB. You picked Virginia Union. So you won that game. In the SEAC, Missouri S&T, that's the Missouri School of Science and Technology, they defeated Tuskegee 16-7. Morehouse stays undefeated. They came back to beat Miles. And, Miles jumped out to a 14-0 lead on Morehouse. And, I was like, wow, I was not expecting, Miles to be able to stay with Morehouse because Miles had not won a game. They're now 0-4. Morehouse is 4-0 after the victory. But Morehouse used a 13-point fourth quarter to come back and win 23-21. A last-minute game-winning 39-yard pass from Michael Sims to Tremel Gooden to win the game. I mean, that is as dramatic as you can get if you have a defender that can knock that ball down, Miles upsets Morehouse, and that is another game that we picked. And everyone,
being that they're still 4-0, if you get a chance to go back and watch that game-winning play, he was double covered, and actually I think another receiver went up. Two receivers went up, but it was double. It was one of the craziest things. 3 seconds on the clock, just 3. This is a rivalry that never changes. So they're back and forth with their exchanges on social media as well. But end it with 3 seconds on the clock, and you win 23-21. But you were down it's a hard way to go down.
Definitely when you work so hard to be in a position to win the game and to just have your heart broken like that. But hey, that is football. What you say, those last minute games, kills that give you a heart attack. I'm pretty sure it's some Miles and Morehouse fans that had their hearts pounding when that ball left their quarterback's hands, and as it was in the air, as the receiver and the defender battled for the ball, and when Morehouse came down with it, I would have loved to have been a fly on the goalpost. And most people say fly on the wall, but ain't no wall on a football field. Fly on the goalpost. Just to hear the epic roar of excitement and the drastic feeling of loss as from Miles and excitement from Morehouse as that play unfolded. I mean, it's the stuff that you want to see in football, plays like that to end games. Of course, we like blowouts too, but when you have games like this, that's just the pageantry of college football. That's the stuff that dreams are made of right there. I mean, no better way to call it, Kels.
Right.
So we are running out of time, but before we get out of here, we want to preview some games next week and also our picks for next week. And I will be posting the winning percentages next week so that we can the champion can brag. But next week, we will have Jackson State versus Alabama A&M. That's the W.C. Gordon Classic. Let me pull this up here. Because we pick all classic games. So any classic game will get picked. We got 2 classic games coming this week, both in the SWAC. So I'm going to start with you, Kels. Jackson State versus Alabama A&M.
With what I've seen the Kills do, and Bentley, this is definitely going to be a game for Alabama A&M. So I'm going to go ahead and give this one to Coach Maynard and the Alabama A&M Bulldogs.
All right, PP.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Alabama A&M because they got the better quarterback. Jack State in the air raid hasn't clicked.
Hadn't taken off yet. It's still in the hangar.
Mm-hmm.
All right, the matchup that we have been waiting for, I'm gonna sweep it out. I'm going to pull Alabama A&M. Even though Jack State is my hometown squad, Coach Hughes got that upset victory, I'm saying, over FAMU. I just don't think Jack State is ready to take its spot back in the SWAC East as it had for so many years. Next up, the State Fair Classic. Prairie View and Coach Dooley, former offensive coordinator for Grambling, and a Grambling alum, probably has had this game circled ever since he decided to apply for and then accept the job at Prairie View. We've been hearing Prairie View talk so much noise, the Dooley effect, Purple Haze. We know what Prairie View has on offense. They have an offensive juggernaut led by DeWanya Tucker. Grambling been fizzing on offense, but we know Grambling has talent on defense. So this game is going to be won by Prairie View's offense versus the Grambling defense. We saw what Grambling's defense did last week. Basically winning the game for Grambling. Kels, who you got in the State Fair Classic? Prairie View or Grambling?
Well, before we do, you said that Prairie View been talking noise Grambling been talking just as much as North Prairie, man. Let's not play sides now.
I don't have sides.
Same amount of trash.
I'm Delta Devil down all the way.
I'm taking Prairie View in this case. We gonna see if it was really Dooley or if it's really Fobbs that's winning games. I'm taking Prairie View in this game.
PP?
I'm going with Prairie View because you can't trust Grambling's quarterbacks right about now.
No, you can't.
I've got total faith in Prairie View's offense.
I am going to sweep this out. My good buddy Devontae is not throwing the ball anymore. So that was one reason why I like Graham so much because, like I said, I've been a fan of Kincaid since he was in high school. But he's gone. So I have to let my love and the hopefulness for the Grambling Tigers go. Grambling was picked to win the SWAC. But if coaches could vote now, again, they probably wouldn't pick Grambling. I think they would pick Prairie View. So, Prairie View will defeat Grambling. Alcorn versus Southern for the Jaguars homecoming. Do I even got to ask you, Kels? Who you rolling with?
It's gonna be a tough one. I definitely say that, but I'm never gonna pick against my school. So I'm definitely taking Southern. It's gonna be a tough one though. I can tell you that much.
LB, who you got?
I'm going with Alcorn because I trust their quarterback more than Southern's quarterback, and their running game is probably going to give everybody problems in the SWAC this year. So, going with the Braves.
I hate to say this. I really do because I'm from Jackson. I was born and raised just like Alcorn. Whenever I hear that ear-rattling Braves fight song, it just makes my eardrums want to bust. What's that? I don't want Alcorn to win, but I don't think the Southern Jaguars are going to be able to do anything against Alcorn. So I'm going to roll with the Alcorn. Jumping over to the Meac, North Carolina A&T versus South Carolina State. Kels?
North Carolina A&T.
PP?
A&T.
And I'm going to sweep it out. I think Coach Washington is going to get back into the win column, take his frustrations out on South Carolina State. All right, FAMU versus North Carolina Central. Kels?
North Carolina Central.
All right. PP?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Central.
And we're going to sweep this out. Up next, Savannah State versus Bethune-Cookman. Kels?
Bethune-Cookman, who against who?
Savannah State.
Oh, Bethune-Cookman.
PP?
Yeah, I'll go with Bethune.
And that's going to be another sweep. All right. Jumping over to CIAA, Winston-Salem State University versus Bowie State. Kels?
Bowie State.
PP?
Bowie.
And that's going to be another sweep because I'm not picking against Amir. Kels, you already know who I was picking when I said Bowie State. Elizabeth City State versus St. Aug.
Definitely Elizabeth. You said Elizabeth City.
All right, PP.
I'm gonna go with St. Aug.
All right. I'm gonna roll with ECSU. I don't think St. Aug has anything. I don't think they're gonna be able to beat up on Elizabeth City. Last game in the CIAA, Virginia Union versus Livingstone, who blanked Lincoln last week in the West End. Who y'all got? Kels?
Virginia.
PP?
Virginia Union.
And that's going to be another sweep. I'm picking Virginia Union also. Thank you, Livingstone, for my win last week, but you won't win this week. Jumping over to the SEAC. CAU versus Allen. HBCU, who is starting its football program. Kels?
I'm going to go with I can't go against Coach Ramsey this time, so I'm going to go ahead and take Clark Atlanta.
PP.
Yep. I'm going CAU.
And that's going to be another sweep. Tuskegee versus Lane. Can Tuskegee bounce back? Kels?
Definitely don't take Tuskegee. I've seen what Lane has done. Definitely taking Tuskegee. Coach Slater to do this one.
All right, PP.
I'm going with Tuskegee.
All right, that's going to be another sweep. We're going to have to, looks like we're going to have a tiebreaker between us. We got a lot of sweeps this week. Last game in the SEAC, Morehouse. Can they still undefeated versus Kentucky State? We got their first, who were they? I think they lost. Yeah, they lost
Morehouse
to Central against Kentucky
Go ahead,
State.
I'm sorry. You said Morehouse against.
Kentucky State.
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna fast, hard, and smart. I'm still rolling with the Maroon Tigers.
All right, PP.
Yeah, I'm going Morehouse.
And that's going to be a sweep. Morehouse will stay undefeated. Last 3 games, jumping out of our non-HBCU conferences, Kaiser versus Edwaters. And our guest, Coach Ruffin. Kels?
Definitely taking Edwaters this week.
PP?
I'm going Thug School.
You going with Kaiser or Edwaters?
Yeah. Kaiser.
Kaiser. I'm rolling with the Waters. I already made my pick. Indianapolis versus Lincoln, Missouri.
Lincoln, Missouri against who?
Indianapolis.
Okay, take Indianapolis.
All right. PP?
Yeah, I'm going Indianapolis.
I'm going to sweep that out. Last game, Hampton versus Charleston Southern. Kel?
Who's the school?
Hampton versus Charleston Southern.
I never even heard of that. Someone take Hampton.
PP?
Oh, man, Charleston Southern, they going to school.
I'm also going to roll with Charleston Southern. You know, I've had a chance. I've had a chance to see them play a few times. They played Mississippi State last year, and even though they got trounced, you switching, Kels?
Can I change my pick?
You know what? Should we make it stick, or should we let her change her pick? Yeah, Kels, you can change it. You want to change to Charleston Southern?
Yeah, because PP sounded he sounded convinced. I'm going strictly off of him. Sounds like I was the wrong pick.
Yeah, you know, we played them last year, and we played them good for a half, and then they just opened it up on us. So.
Yes, indeed. Because take a look at Charleston Southern. They are 0-2 on the season. Got blew out by Florida 50-36. They lost to Elon 31-22. So Kels, maybe if Hampton could jump out on Charleston Southern, you may want to stay with your first pick. So but we are all rolling with Charleston Southern. We are all rolling with Charleston Southern. That is the end of our show tonight. Kels, let's go ahead and close us out.
Okay, so we will have another guest. Tell us who our guest is going to be next week, Derek.
Coach Goree of Kentucky State Volleyball, a former championship-winning coach at Shaw. She left Shaw to lead the Kentucky State Thoroughbreds volleyball team. She's going to come on and talk to us about, how her team is doing this week, doing in volleyball, and also talk to us about her motivation for leaving her alma mater to coach at Kentucky State. I want to wish my big sister in heaven, Kiwana. Bub loves you, and I miss you. Kels?
All right, well, I'll be in Baton Rouge, and I'll see you on Thursday.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, be sure to check in for next week for Black Card Experience. We are out of here.
Shutterstock Music.